Salamander dude, SaiyanSalamander here, and welcome to another episode of Salem Suggests. If you're new to the series, or just new to the channel in general, then basically I just talk about any game, manga, anime, anything I like really, and recommend it to you guys and say why I liked it. I've got quite a few new episodes of this series that I've just left unfinished, but I'll eventually upload them all to the channel, since there's a decent amount of Salem Suggest vids I've started working on but I haven't finished just yet. But since I just saw the new My Hero Academia World Hero Mission movie, I figured I'd share my thoughts about it while I've still got it fresh in my mind. As always, I'm going to talk about the film without spoiling anything at first, before going into the more spoiler territory later on. World Hero Mission is the third movie that we've gotten from the My Hero Academia franchise, which in case you've somehow never heard of it, then let me just give you a quick rundown of what it is. It's about a boy named Izuku Midoriya that lives in a world where 80% of the world have some kind of superpower known as quirks. While Midoriya is one of the 20% that doesn't have a quirk, but he wants to still attend the #1 school for heroes, like the hero he admired All Might did in his youth. I'll probably do a more detailed rundown of the entire series in another video in the future, probably when it's finished, since despite my name tying into Dragon Ball and Fairy Tail instead, my actual favourite manga is My Hero Academia. World Hero Mission takes place at some point after the agency arc in Season 5, so definitely do not watch this movie if you haven't at least watched that much of My Hero Academia. Or if you're a manga reader, you'll want to give this movie a miss if you haven't read up to chapter 252. The film was very different to what I expected from the trailers, to be honest. Sometimes in a good way, but others not so much. With the latter part, I was really hoping we'd be getting a better look at hero society as a whole, seeing bits of what other countries are like, and seeing some of the heroes from other countries in this quirk-filled world. Despite it being a mission that takes place across the globe though, we didn't get as good of a look as I'd hoped. The main country the film is set in is a fictional country, and I would have definitely preferred them basing it on a real country instead of a fictional one. A few other countries like France and America were touched up upon, but we didn't really see much from the heroes that operated there, aside from seeing the #1 hero from one country who I won't spoil, but I fell in love with the character the second I saw them. And I wish we got to see a little bit more of them, and maybe briefly introduce some other new heroes along the way as well. It just felt weird having this film be on a global scale, yet aside from that one hero I just mentioned, only the Japanese heroes seemed to care about the situation occurring in the film, which downplayed what should have been a World Hero Mission for me. I feel like the whole World Hero Mission theme would have been better saved for another movie, since I don't think they took the full advantage of that kind of scale, with the main aspect of the film I enjoyed being on a much smaller scale, with a simple journey that two characters take. The action in this film is really good overall, but aside from one of the 3 ending fights, I think my favourite scenes were the more chase and escape scenes. I just love the dynamic camera movement and the parkour kind of action of chasing down a potential villain or trying to escape from a villain's attack. Speaking of villains, I felt they were really lackluster overall, to be honest, with there only being one I really liked, which was Ryu Lion, who guest appeared from the Danmachi series. She had a cool quirk and had some great action scenes, but I don't think her character was explored enough. It made it feel like they wasted such a great character design. We also saw Crazy Byleth from Fire Emblem Three Houses and one of the special ranked demons from Jujutsu Kaisen appear, who are basically throwaway villains just there to have a cool fight with the heroes. Finally we had Wobbuffet from Pokemon. While their quirk was cool, I thought their backstory was pretty dumb, and I was constantly questioning how their quirk and the previous 2 villains I mentioned quirks were working with the stuff they were able to do mid-fight. My Hero does also introduce a lot of great protagonists across the series, and unlike how the villains bombed in this film, I really enjoy the new protagonists they introduced. I've already mentioned how much I liked that one hero from another country, but I just really wish they got a few more seconds of footage. They also introduced Rudy Soul, who you've probably seen in a couple of the trailers. I really liked the story they had to tell with him, and he had some fantastic scenes throughout the film, and I really hope we see him again someday, or at least he's mentioned or makes some kind of cameo in the manga down the line. Overall, while I have my complaints, I still think it was a pretty good movie. I just think some of the ideas and themes conflicted a little bit, and they could have been made into separate films. And there's a fair few things I would have liked to see still, but I think it lands in a solid spot in between 2 heroes, which while I still enjoyed was my least favourite out of the 3, and Heroes Rising, which was my favourite of the My Hero Academia movies that we've gotten so far. Okay, I don't think I can manage to say anything else about the film without spoiling anything. So if you haven't seen the film yet and don't want to be spoiled, then definitely click off the video and come back here for my spoiler review once you have. But if you want to leave a like and subscribe to the channel before you do, then it would be greatly appreciated. So let's start off with the biggest crime in this movie. How could they come up with these 3 ridiculously good hero costume designs for Deku, Bakugo and Todoroki, and only use them for like the first 5 minutes of the film? Like honestly, they could have just made the excuse that those were the only costumes that they brought with them from Japan for the mission. Like, I just love these designs so much, and it's such a shame they were barely used despite how hyped up they were to the lead up for the film's release. Honestly, I think the trio overall were really overhyped. Calling them the Three Musketeers and giving them some cool new designs, I figured Todoroki and Bakugo would have a lot more of an impact in the film. I thought maybe for a change we won't get Deku going 100% again to beat the final boss, but just the three of them and maybe a bit of endeavour working together to beat them. But instead we had Todoroki and Bakugo taking on the grunts while Deku handled the big boss Flect turn. While I still really wanted the three of them to take on the main villain together, Bakugo's fight was phenomenal, and was definitely the best out of the three fights. Bakugo just getting more and more pissed as usual as the fight went on, with all the blood from the damage he took turning his eyes red looked sick. Todoroki's end fight was pretty cool, but I think it just paled in comparisons to Deku and Bakugo's fights. I don't think it helped that the villain he was fighting was just some random stock villain, and I spent the entire fight trying to think of what their quirk was, and why he looked like the special grade curse from Jujutsu Kaisen. Deku's fight against Flect ranked in the middle of the two for me. It was good at parts, but the main bit I didn't really like when they really popped off with the animation. When Deku went 100%, it felt like the animation was done really well here, but I guess I just didn't enjoy what they were animating. We had a cool callback to the animation they used during the overhaul fight back in Season 4, and the muscular fight in Season 3, but a lot of it was what my mates joked about, saying that Deku was shadowboxing, since he just kept punching the air for a while before slowly splitting into 3 shadow clones of himself, while he just squats and shadowboxes the entire time. I feel like I shouldn't have been laughing at what was supposed to be a really hyped fight, but while the animation was good here, it just looks really stupid. Like, I guess this happened before when I found All Might and Deku running together really funny, but the humor was always outweighed by the hype, and I think that just wasn't the case for me here. I was too busy laughing and questioning what was going on at times to be hyped for all the action. I wasn't really a fan of Deku's finishing move too. It looked pretty cool, but I just didn't like the name United States of World Smash. I get why it was called that, but I don't know, I think it just sounded too long or something. Like, maybe I would have preferred him to use the original United States of Smash this time around. Or maybe use Black Whip more in the finishing move, and the fight in general. He might have used it for a bit, but from what I can remember, I don't think he used it that much. Maybe not even at all. But from what I remember, he mainly just used it for Spider-Manning around during the first part of the film. I think I've already mentioned this, but the final fight just felt really lonely. Like, 2 heroes we had All Might and Deku fighting together, Heroes Rising we had Deku and Bakugo team up together, but here it's just Deku fighting on his own. Sure, Rudy came in and saved the day by putting that microchip in to stop the trigger bombs from exploding across the globe, but he's just not a fighter. I was really hoping and expecting the big three, Deku, Bakugo and Todoroki, to fight the big bad together, instead of the two of them just paving the way so that Deku could fight Flect, and it was pretty disappointing to me, despite how much I enjoyed the Bakugo fight. I already spoke about the villains our heroes fought in the non-spoiler section, but I figured I'd go more in depth in the spoiler review. Like I mentioned beforehand, I wasn't really a fan of Flect's character. It was cool having a reflection-based quirk, but aside from just bouncing back Deku's attacks, I didn't get how he was keeping up with Deku's speed, and punching and kicking him back too. Plus his whole backstory is just, "Waaah, my quirk reflects things, so my parents never hugged me, so I'm gonna kill 80% of the population. Waaah." I did like the plot aside from that, since I found it interesting seeing people have such a disdain for quirk-based society, and going that far to destroy it, but I just wasn't really a fan of how it was executed. Mainly because of the lackluster main villain and the poor attempt of trying to make the movie be set on a global scale. Maybe they could have hopped from country to country for the mission, or just show more foreign heroes, aside from just the #1 hero of Egypt, Papyrus, who was amazing by the way, and I really wish he got a lot more screen time. The thing is, if we're gonna see countries like America and France pop up in the film, I'd love to see what kind of heroes operate there, especially in the top ranks. But instead, for some reason, the only country taking part in this mission were the heroes from Japan. I think Rudy was a great addition to the story too. I just loved his dynamic with Deku, and a lot of my favourite parts of the film were when the two of them are together. From memory, I really like the scene where they're just stowing away on a bus together since they need to escape the country, and Rudy's just chill with getting a free ride, and then Deku's just completely is not okay with it, and uses his quirk to fire some change onto a bus to pay for the two of them. The only real problems with Rudy in this film is that I feel like they built up the hype for his quirk a bit too much. Like, I knew it wouldn't be an amazing quirk or anything when he said he was embarrassed by it, but it was still super underwhelming when they delayed talking about Soul for that long. Honestly, I'm surprised his quirk wasn't parkour related after the chase scene at the start of the film. The other problem I had, I think I mentioned before, is that I kinda wish Rudy was kept either for another film or an arc in the manga at some point. Since like I said, I did really like the dynamic between him and Deku, but at the same time, I feel like it took away from the Three Musketeer film that the movie was advertising about. So I'd rather this movie be fully centered around Class 1A's Big Three, and another movie focus more on Deku and Rudy. Back to me complaining about the movie villains, the special grade curse and crazy Byleth. I've already talked about them enough in the non-spoiler section. So let's get back to the Archer girl that looks like the elf from Danmachi. Like I said before, I don't think her character was explored enough during the movie. I get there's limited time, but I really want to know what made her think that having a quirk was so much of a bad thing that she'd blindly follow Flect and even sacrifice herself for that cause. And the whole sacrifice scene was bullshit in itself. Like, you're telling me that none of the big three of Class 1A would even attempt to save her from jumping out of the helicopter? They kinda just watched it happen and then forgot about it 2 seconds later. She's literally never mentioned it all after she died. It just felt like a real shame for such a great designed character with such a cool quirk to get thrown into the series, to have a few cool action scenes, and then be thrown out of it again for literally no reason. Overall, I'd probably rate the film about a 7 out of 10, maybe pushing towards an 8. While I enjoyed some of the stuff they did, I was just a little bummed that the film wasn't really what they were hyping up for. If you're a My Hero fan, you'll probably enjoy the film, but it's not really a must-watch in my opinion. The film's got some fantastic action scenes, great music, a pretty decent story, and some really good new protagonists to boot. So if you just want to consume some more My Hero content, then definitely just give it a go. But please stay away from it for now if you're not caught up with the anime or have not read up to chapter 252 of the manga, since you're gonna get hella spoiled if you watch the movie without getting this far into the series. I think with that though, I'm pretty much done here, so thank you so much for watching the video, my dudes. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, comment on what you thought of the film, and subscribe, and United States to smash that bell icon, so you're notified whenever I upload a new video to the channel. I've also got links to all my socials, my Discord server, and my Twitch channel in the description. So if you want to follow me elsewhere, hang out with the rest of the community, or want to see some live playthroughs from me, then definitely check them all out. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Until next time, bye.